So DJI just released their 360 drone, and that kind of changes things in the market. Where does that leave the Antigravity A1, which has been out for a while now? Here in the US, we're still not sure whether or not we're going to be able to get the DJI Avata 360. In fact, buddies of mine that have reviewed that drone that are in direct conversation with DJI also don't know whether or not they're going to be able to sell this in the US. Now, granted, they're not all here in the US. Some of them are in different places. But with that being said, where does that leave us as filmmakers, content creators in the US in the drone space? Today's video was sponsored by Adorama, and as always, I'm going to be focusing on a consumer buyer focused review where my goal is always to give you enough information to make an educated decision and not necessarily to sway you in one direction or the other. The first thing that I noticed when using the Antigravity A1 is that this is not the same type of drone that we always use. And the first thought that comes to mind is that I've seen a lot of reviews recently this past week where they were comparing the DJI Avata 360 and the Antigravity A1, and the first thing they would say is, you know, the Antigravity A1 doesn't go backwards. And after using this for a little bit of time, you know, to say that that's the reason or one of the reasons that the DJI may be better doesn't make sense, because technically when you're using a 360 drone, you're always going backwards and you're always going forward at the same time. And that's the first thing that kind of threw me for a loop as a traditional drone, pilot, starting to use the 360 drone for the first time. And so the biggest thing that I always come back to when it comes to these type of products is not necessarily which one is better over the other, because they are very similar, but at the same time, the user interfaces and the experiences can be very different. And so one may be great for this person, and it may be great for this person, and it may be horrible for this person in the middle, both of them. And so with that being said, what is the real user experience of the Antigravity A1? Let's jump into that. The first time I touched this drone, I was like, dang, this thing is super lightweight, but not in a cheap way. It doesn't feel cheap. It feels lightweight enough to keep it light so that it can be fast, but sturdy enough so that it doesn't feel cheap. The ease of access of adding the memory card there and USB-C to plug in directly. And one thing that I really like about this is that when it folds, the feet don't cross like they do on my Air 2S and some of my other DJI drones. So I love the fact that you can unfold this without conflict of the feet. This took some getting used to. If I'm 100% honest, coming from a traditional drone pilot where you usually have the two thumbsticks and the buttons at the top and the spin dial to change the up and down of the camera angle of the gimbal and stuff like that, moving to this threw me for a loop for the first two flights. Not in a bad way, but the things that I had gotten so used to being able to do from a flight standpoint and yawing and different stuff like that, you can do to an extent, but you can't quite do it with the same amount of control, because you're kind of holding this thing and you're moving your wrist. It is different. It's a different experience, but over time, I definitely got used to it, and I do like it to an extent. I'm not quite sure if I like it more than the RC controller, just being honest, because I've been flying drones that way for years. And so it's muscle memory, and this is something new, but I do enjoy it. It's like the first time I flew it, I was like, oh, I don't like this. But where I'm at now, I do kind of enjoy it. The goggles, again, if you're an FPV drone pilot, this is no problem for you, and you get used to this really quickly. If you have flown traditional drones like me, this is very interesting, the first use, because when I was working on the review and trying to get the B-roll and stuff like that, I fumbled all the time because I needed to adjust my cameras or set up my cameras and different things like that. And you have to put on the goggles to film yourself. And I've never flown FPV drones before, only the traditional style. And so for me, that was an adjustment. It took some getting used to have to wear this all the time. Another thing, on the inside of this, these always get dirty. And it's not because it's a bad design, it's because it's really thin. And when you go to put this on, because of how thin it is, you can do that, but when I do that, it's up against my forehead, as you see. And because it's up against my forehead, the oils on my skin sometimes get on the glass. They also sent me this battery charger, and this battery charger is nice because it has a screen on the front where you can see which battery, has what power. And the nice thing about that is that this will put the power into the battery that needs it most. And so to charge one battery at a time. So instead of, when your batteries are dead and like they're charging all of them, so all the batteries are like 20%, but none of them are full, it's gonna charge one battery, then another battery, then another battery. And I thought that was just so freaking sweet and such a great feature. And it also has this little spot right here in the back where you can actually pack it up and only carry 2 batteries in there. And then you can add that third battery in there by hitting that button and then sliding that on. And that experience has been so great because there hasn't been a time, and they sent me out 4 different batteries. As you can see, there's also another battery here. And so there hasn't been a time where I've gone to fly and I've ran out of battery. Not one time. They sent me this bag as well, and this bag has everything in it that you need to travel. So you got all the little compartments in there that you need. And then you got all your extra gear and stuff, your cables and stuff like that there. They also sent out the replacement lens kit, and I had no issues with my flights whatsoever, so I didn't have to worry about that. But inside the box, you get everything that's needed in order to replace the lenses, air, and here's a little piece that you grab the lens with, etc. And here are the replacement lenses here. But I had no issues on my flight, so no issues whatsoever. But it's nice to know that you can replace the lenses should you damage them, and you don't have to send in the whole drone to fix it. You just replace it at home. So that's super cool. So in all honesty, even though I've flown drones for years, right, using the regular RC type handheld controller, I was intimidated by this. I didn't want to fly this out in public. I didn't want to, because I felt like I didn't have enough control. And I went back and I shared this a second ago, like getting used to this for the first time. I didn't like this stick for the first time I flew it because of muscle memory of using a regular controller. And now I can't necessarily say regular, I can say thumbstick style controller, because this is also a regular controller for 360 drone. I was intimidated by it, and I didn't like that experience at first. One of the things that Antigravity A1 has is a virtual flight simulator that released recently with one of their firmware releases. And that allows you to go into the firmware, into the device itself, put the goggles on, have the controller, and go into a flight simulator and fly the drone around without actually flying the drone. So you can do hours of using the drone in the flight simulator without actually flying your actual drone. And that's one of the biggest things that I will say is a plus for this drone, because if you've never flown a drone before and you've never probably flown a 360 drone before, that is ideal because it walks you through the process. Not only does it physically walk you through each physical step, turn on the drone, push this button, hit this button on the goggle, hit this button on the goggle, this does this, hit this button, it moves the clicker. It walks you through the entire process, pre-flight and flight, through the tutorials physically, so that you're actually hitting the buttons and hearing the beeps and all of those different things while you have the goggles on. And so I cannot say enough how much of an understatement of all the videos that I've watched that is. And to be fair to some of them that were early adopters and the folks that they sent out the review samples to early on, that wasn't there. All of those features wasn't there. That's a release since that firmware release is new since the release of the Antigravity A1, specifically the flight simulator and some of the other tutorials that are inside the goggles. So I have to stress this portion of the video that if you're new to flying or you're new to drones, you're most likely going to be new to a 360 drone. You're most likely going to be new to this type of flight stick. They got you covered. The second big thing for me is the user interface is really nice. The menus are huge, and it's like being, it's like being inside of a Meta Quest 2. Like your menus pop up in front of you, and you can select different things, and there's a section for everything in the sections. Like this side is a theme, this side is a theme, the stuff on top is a theme. The menu bar at the bottom is easy to navigate and understand. So The user interface, I can definitely tell that they did a lot of research and discovery with user groups and different users and stuff like that, A/B testing and stuff like that, to understand what people like, where their eyes go and where their eyes go, where they look, and kind of, how they would read that screen from left to right. It's really intuitive. And so I really like that. Where the rubber meets the road, moving the media from the drone to the computer or the phone to edit and all of those different things. The mobile work stream is super easy and intuitive because you have your quick share and you can grab the information from the SD card, move it directly to your phone by connecting the phone to the drone, quick share all over the air, boom, 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 done, right? You can also plug in a USB-C into the drone and into the goggles because they both have internal memory. They both have a space for an micro SD card. So you can use a USB-C device, a USB-C cable into your Mac, or into your PC and stuff, etc. The Mac was not as smooth as a process of moving the information from the internal storage of the goggles and the drone, because for whatever reason, it wouldn't read or find the internal storage of the goggles when I plugged it in. I had to download an OMP-TP or whatever it's called, little application that then allowed me to see the information on the internal storage, and then it was easy breezy from there. So I'll put that link in the description below where you can get that. Okay, lastly, let's talk about image quality and the videos that come out of this. I really like the software, the Antigravity Studio, the A1 Studio, and how you can edit the videos, because you can do it both on your Mac. You can download the desktop version. You could also do it on your phone. They even have like CapCut where you can auto cut, and they'll cut it to music and they'll cut it to beats and stuff like that, and put words and all that stuff up, and it does it in really fast, and you can kind of get those auto cut videos, etc., to post to socials and stuff like that. But what I really liked about it is that you can take the same video, and you have infinite amount of videos that you can create from it. And it's that whole thing that they've said in the marketing is that you fly and you shoot later. And that's a real thing, because I flew over one of the parks in our area where they have tennis courts, football field, soccer field, baseball diamonds and softball diamond, etc. And from that one clip, it's like 2 minutes, 35 seconds. I've made 30 videos, no lie. And some of them are the auto cut videos, etc. Some of them are just me playing with the software to try to learn how to use the software and setting focus points. I'll set it on this, it goes this way, and then it switches to the sunset and stuff like that. I will say that the software is pretty intuitive. It works really well. The mobile software is super fast because it has it in little sections, and it's really easy to understand what you're doing here. It's really easy to just okay, let me hit that button. It's going to give me 16 different videos and all that different stuff. But the experience for that is really good as well. So who is this actually for? I think this is for beginners for sure. That user experience and teaching you how to use the drone is one of the best I've ever seen, bar none. 2, I think it's good for intermediate flyers as well. And I definitely think it's good for content creators, but it really depends on the type of content you create. It's not flying to find the shot. You're flying to capture the ecosystem and the environment, and then from there you can form your shot later. And so you do a lot of work in post as opposed to doing a lot of work up front, actually flying the drone. So if you like the upfront part, this may not be the drone for you, but if you have the patience and the creativity, you can come up with 1,000 different variations of the same shot on the back end and post. And so I think it's really good for those folks that really like to tell a story and want control. And if they are the type of people that, man, I wish I would have shot it this way, this drone is perfect for you because you can shoot it that way later in post. And so I think that's amazing. Is this trying to replace DJI? I don't think so. It's a completely different, right? A lot of people will want to compare this to like a Mavic or an Air 2S or DJI 5 Mini. It's none of those things. It's a completely different way of flying. It's a completely different way of getting your shot. Now, apples to apples with the DJI Avata 360 and the Antigravity A1, there's a lot of comparisons there, but the user experience is going to be slightly different based on the ecosystem that you're in. And I know there's a lot of buzz right now around the price only being around $600 for the Avata, but that's only for the drone and the controller. It's not for the drone, the goggles, the controller, and the other things. It's just drone and controller. So compare apples to apples and look, I'll put the link in the description below so that you can look at the Adorama website as well as the Antigravity website, because there's always sales. And then you can look at the DJI website and you can put apples to apples, goggles, controller, batteries, goggles, controller, batteries, and then you can see which one comes out on top. But then I always think that the upfront cost is only the initial investment, but the actual brass tacks is the user experience and what it feels like every time you put those goggles on or every time you turn that thing on. What is that experience like? And so I can say from my experience that the Antigravity A1 has been amazing. So again, thank you to Adorama for sending it out. And if you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel and you enjoyed today's content, consider subscribing and hitting that subscribe button below and join the Cosey Coalition. And as always, stay cozy in that crazy world, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.